So, today's topic. This is Sonia Choquette. She is a psychic and she's been spiritually open her whole life. And what I'm going to talk about today is based upon her book called Diary of a Psychic. So this is her book called Diary of a Psychic, Shattering the Myths. She's actually written many books and she's a world famous psychic. And so the books I read, there's something I can learn, I want to learn. And so you could say there are many people who are gifted mediums, but I think her story is particularly interesting. And I think we can learn a lot about ourselves and about our own spiritual path. So, psychic phenomena. We know that from reading the Divine Principle, that we are like in a special time. We call it the last days, because there's a lot of spiritual phenomena. And if you read Divine Principle, chapter 4, section 1, it talks about signs of the restoration of the first blessing. In the last days, therefore, many faithful believers will acquire the ability to communicate with God, as was prophesied in the Bible. In the last days, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And then I was looking from some other passages from the Principle, but we have actually some different translations. So in the outline of the Principle level 4, on the chapter on the present days or the last days, it says this: recent increases in spiritual experiences and psychic phenomena worldwide reflect the restoration of man's heart and spirit to the level that Adam and Eve enjoyed just prior to the fall, and indicate that man is on the verge of restoring the first blessing. The first blessing is to become a true person and a godly person and the best that you can be. So also I looked in the Divine Principle Study Guide from Reverend Young Wee Kim, and the section on spiritual phenomena in the last days, he says this: spiritually attuned people communicate with different realms of spirit world according to their different peculiarities of environment, position, intellect, spiritual development, heart, and so on. Therefore, their perceptions and understanding of the spirit world differ. So it can be very confusing. If you listen to lots of different spiritually open people, maybe you get all kinds of different opinions and viewpoints. So always the question for me is, can I learn something from these people? So now let's look at this book. The Diary of a Psychic is in 3 parts. The first one is about natural gifts. She was born in 1956, which means she's now about 64 years of age. And this first part is about her childhood and how she discovered that she had these psychic abilities. The second part is when she is trained to develop her psychic abilities during a 4-year period as a teenager. And the third part is about her own future leading up to 2003. So this book was written actually almost 20 years ago, but this is the story of how she developed from being very young until she became a well-known psychic. So let's look at the first part, between 1956 and 69, her natural gifts. This is a photograph of her family when she was 12 and with her 6 siblings, 4 girls and 3 boys, and her father, Paul, in 1969. It's the only photo I could find, but you can see she was pretty tall for her age. So her family were Catholic. Her mother actually was from Romania, and her father was a French Canadian, but they were a Catholic family. And her mother was psychic. She talked to spirits. She got messages. She she knew what was happening with her children because the spirit spoke to her. And actually in her family, the presence of angels, spirit guides, and dead relatives were a normal part of their family life. So even though they were Catholics, they had no problem also integrating the awareness that kind of the spirit world was around them and was communicating with them. And it wasn't just her mother, but also Sonia herself, who had some sensitivity. Her brothers and sisters also were quite sensitive to spirit world. When she was 6, Sonia asked her mother to teach her how to talk to spirits because she was hearing voices and she was actually seeing like dead relatives. And because her mother had this gift, she wanted to learn. But her mother said, okay, I will teach you on 3 conditions. First, you must agree to listen and follow guidance without question. Secondly, don't ask for anything you don't want to know. And third, turn your attention inward and stop talking in your mind. So these were the 3 conditions. So that, you know, you can take that the spirit world will communicate with you, but you have to kind of have the right attitude and the openness to this. So here's a picture of 2 people, you know, one person's thinking about an apple, and can the other person pick up that thought? You know, telepathy. I suppose all of us, to some extent, we experience this. We pick up each other's thoughts. So what were these kind of natural gifts that she had? First of all, because her mother knew who her spirit guide was, or spirit guides, and the name, she wanted to know, you know, what is the name of my spirit guide? And so she discovered that her guide, I'll go back, sorry. She discovered that her guide was called Rose. And so she prayed, you know, I want to know your name. And so she said, one night she heard the soothing, sweet, feminine voice answer her, I am Rose and I love you. Rose, I repeated. Rose, what a beautiful name. Thank you for being here, for watching over me. After several weeks of talking to Rose, I wanted to know what she looked like. So I asked her. And I saw a beautiful light. In the center emerged a very small woman who looked like a nun. She wore a brown and beige habit, different from sisters at school. She had a very kind, sweet face and appeared to be about 20 years old. She smiled at me and held her arms open. And when she did, I felt warm energy flow through me. She looked like the picture of Saint Therese, the little flower that I'd seen at school. And I asked, are you Saint Therese? I asked her as I looked at the light, but all I heard in my heart was Rose. So I wasn't sure if she was or she wasn't. So this was her spirit guide. And her spirit guide, you know, when she had some problems, she turned to Rose and asked for some help. And in the school, there was this girl who was a bit of a bully, and she had a hard time with her. She was quite aggressive. And so she asked Rose, what can I do about this bully? You know, she's threatening me. And Rose said, invite her to the swimming pool. And that's very difficult if you're dealing with an aggressive person. But this girl actually was not a happy girl because she her parents were divorced, and so her aggression was coming out because of her family situation. So actually all this negativity that came towards Sonia changed when she invited this girl to go swimming, and she went swimming with her, and it completely changed kind of her relationship with this girl. So this is where having a spirit guide you can talk to and seek help really can be beneficial. And because she was spiritually open, and also her brothers and sisters, she used to play psychic games. For example, if the telephone was ringing, you know, could they guess who it was? And so this was something she loved to do. And if they visited their aunt and uncle, what dinner, what food would they be preparing, and she was very good at doing this. And so one time with a friend, she played a game of, okay, the next car that stops at the stoplight, what color will it be? And she got it right every time. So, and she liked this attention and this approval. And something else is that she when at Christmas time, her parents bought presents for them, but they hid them somewhere. And they had a wish list, but the parents always say, "Oh, we can't afford it this year. We can't afford to buy anything." So one of her brothers spoke to Sonia and said, "Look, why don't you use your psychic gifts and can we find out where the presents are? Because if they're not the ones I want, then maybe I can give a hint of what I really want." And so they looked over the whole house. They couldn't find anything. And Sonia tried to use her psychic sense, but nothing turned up. So then she asked Rose, where are the presents? And the message was, in the trunk, in the trunk. And so they searched inside the trunk, but they couldn't find anything. But they still she kept the message, it's in the trunk. And then they realized actually the trunk of the car. And then one evening, it was actually Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas, her father came home, parked the car, and then went indoors. And so she and her brother decided to get the keys and look inside the trunk of the car. And lo and behold, there were the Christmas presents. So this was exciting to do such things. And then, but also she started picking up other people's pain. So if somebody around her was angry, she felt like all this electricity. If she felt sad, she felt like she couldn't breathe. And if someone around her was happy, she felt very high. So she was picking up other people's emotions. And she was also picking up other people's thoughts. And when she was near them, like thoughts would just pop into her head. And then she started to hear other people's thoughts. And so this is the story of at school. It was a Catholic school and the teachers were nuns. And one day she heard her teacher saying, "I'm going to surprise my students with a spelling bee, a spelling test." And Sonia could hear her voice very clearly, but actually she didn't say it. She didn't say it in front of the class, but she could hear the words. And so during playtime, Sonia got really excited and told a friend, "We're going to have a spelling test." And a friend said, "How do you know?" "Oh, I just know, I heard her say it. But please don't tell anybody." So her friend promised that, but actually a friend told the whole class. And when they actually, so because they got the message, they all prepared for this surprise test, and they did surprisingly well. And the teacher wondered, "How did you know this?" And so they all started saying, "Oh, Sonia told us, Sonia told us." And it was very embarrassing for Sonia because she, her friend had promised not to say. So at the end of the lesson, all the children were dismissed except Sonia. And the teacher questioned her and was very upset. And she said, how did you know this? "Well, I heard you say it. I hear voices." And the nun became kind of angry with her and said, "You're lying." And in those days, in the classroom, there was this wooden paddle for punishment. And so she received a bit of physical punishment. But after this, it was very shocking. Up to that point, psychic games had been fun, but this was quite a shock. And so she was, in tears and upset. But then Rose, her spirit guide, spoke to her and said, "Forgive her, Sonia. She doesn't understand. Just be quiet for now, and we love you." And so because of having Rose around, she could deal with this traumatic experience. So now we come to the second part of the book about psychic training. And one day, her mother invited Charlie Goodman, a 70-year-old man who was a professional psychic, And actually, the reason she invited him is because she wanted to know whether she should move house. And actually, he gave that information. Yes, you're going to move. But at the same time, he gave readings for all the family members. And she gave a reading also for Sonia. And this is what she said about Sonia. Sonia, you have the gift of psychic awareness. Your path is to follow a long tradition of healers and teachers and to help people find their way. You have many, many guides, and you will come to know them all. Your guide right now and your companion for life is Rose. So he confirmed that actually that her main spirit guide was Rose. And that also confirmed to her that he really was a psychic and speaking the truth. Although you may have psychic ability, this isn't enough. You must also have the discipline to be a student of mine, because she asked, can I learn from you? But he was kind of strict with her, it's possible. I'll think about it. But if you become a student, you will have to be disciplined. If you are not on time, because he invited her, if you're not on time, higher guys will think we're not serious and will leave. So he invited her to come on Friday evening for 3 hours and Saturday afternoon for 3 hours every week. And he also said, lower entities will come in their place and flatter you, tell you that you're special and criticize others. So it's important that you're on time and that you have the right attitude. Otherwise, he called them the riffraff. Riffraff will come and say all kinds of garbage that are not helpful. So you have to be careful. And then his first lesson, he started talking about the chakras, these energy centers, like wheels within our spirit. And he said that the main psychic channels are the top 4 chakra. The 3 bottom, root, sacral, and solar plexus, they're more connected to the physical life. But the 3 high ones, heart, throat, third eye, and crown, are connected to your psychic channels. And he said the heart chakra is the psychic epicenter, where everything happens first. If the heart is clear, the readings will flow. And in order to open up the heart, he said, it's not so difficult. But there are 3 things: forgive, forget, and laugh. And he used to laugh an awful lot. And he said, this opens the heart and lets the highest energy possible, love, flow like water. And forgiveness is the gateway to the soul. And he asked her, is there anybody that hurt you or that you have hurt? And like, forgive them. So when you forgive, you open up the heart, and then love can flow like water. And then she said, when I used the heart chakra correctly, it automatically opened my other higher psychic centers in my throat and in my forehead, which is why I began to hear guides and see images automatically. These centers worked together. So that's why, one reason why she was hearing and seeing things, because her heart was open. And then Charlie, he rubbed his hands together, and he was kind of clearing her energy and kind of taking things which was stuck in her chakras out, and it made her feel really good. So this was kind of the first lesson. And he'd said that she actually had a lot of guides, and I would like, first of all, just to list the ones that she came to know. So, as I said, Rose, her main guide that stayed with her whole life, a warm, loving presence. She looked like a picture of Saint Teresa, and she became Sonia's confidant and confessor. So she could share, like her closest friend. She could share her secrets. And then there was Joseph. He was a great source of protection from other people's negativity and taught her a code of ethics. So one time, she and a friend were not at school. They truanted. And, but that same day, the headmaster of the school phoned up her mother and wanted to award Sonia with like an award for being one of the best students, you know, in the school, like not just academically, but also like in character. But her mother said, well, is she not at school? And so Joseph, he had been the one that had made sure that the headmaster learned that she was not at school. And so she actually didn't get the award. So he said it's very important that you have a high standard of ethics if you're going to be if you're going to develop your psychic abilities and help others. And then was Dot. Dot helped develop a larger, more objective viewpoint. So these different spirits have different roles that would help her on her journey. And then there were three bishops. She had a dream one night, and these three bishops came to her, and they told her that they would teach her about her soul, her spirit, and how it grows. And finally, there were these Pleiadian sisters. She also had a vision and dreamt about them. And there was a time in her life when she was older where she kind of was quite low, and she was not following the path that she'd been given as to be a psychic medium. And these sisters helped Sonia recover her divine spark and recommit to her path. So the question is, when I read this, who's with me? Who's with you? We are not alone. Sonia might be a gifted psychic, but that doesn't mean to say that the rest of us don't have spirit guides and ancestors or angels or whatever working with us. And I would say, definitely in my life, I feel guided. Things happen, things pop into my head. And if I look back at my life, I can see there's a thread and there's a purpose to everything. So one reason to read this book and to learn from a psychic is to reflect upon my own life and think, well, who's guiding me? And am I open? Is my heart open to receive guidance? Because if I maintain, you know, a good ethical standard, and I'm really asking with a sincere heart, then I receive answers. And this is how our life is meant to be. And so then he taught her about meditation. And he said this: meditation is essential to creating a proper atmosphere when you're giving readings to people. It will clear your aura of negativity that you may have picked up during the day and protect you from any bad energy that a client brings to a reading. Because, you know, this is what her purpose was, is to give readings to people and to help them to find their purpose. Meditation will strengthen your ability to tune into the highest spiritual guidance. And so they were learning to breathe slowly, and by breathing slowly, this opens up your heart. And then he taught her a chant, Om Mani Padme Om. And when he first did this, she couldn't help but start laughing. It was very difficult for her because she found it so funny. And he was just very calm, and he just kept repeating. And it took maybe 20 minutes before she could calm down and finally say this chant. And this clears all negativity and cuts any psychic cords that attach other people to you. Because he said that when you give a reading, you can pick up the energy of other people, and that energy can stay with you. And the people who come, she had many experiences where sometimes the energy was negative or criticized her, and it was difficult. And so afterwards, she would be carrying this energy around. And so he was teaching her how to kind of take away these cords that you get attached to from other people. And again, you know, for all of us in our daily life, when we're out there working, meeting with people, we pick up their energy. And sometimes it could even be in the family, we have some kind of conflict, and that energy stays with us. So the question is how to release it so that we are free of this kind of negative attachments. And then he said, you know, meditate 20 minutes at the beginning of every class. So this class was 3 hours. After meditating and kind of tuning into her spirit guides and getting a report from them about how she was doing, then he would give her a talk maybe for an hour non-stop. And after that, they would do some practices, which she enjoyed the most. And then, of course, prayer. So he says prayers are natural filters, eliminating negative entities and attracting positive helpers. And he said, say the Lord's Prayer every morning, just as you wake up and right before you go to sleep. When I was around about 7, 8, 9, 10, I said the Lord's Prayer every day. I said it at school because that was what we did. And so this Lord's Prayer, I remember reciting it at home because I felt good. It kind of, so if I reflect, then yeah, if you say a prayer, I mean, I used to say a prayer at night before I went to bed, a simple prayer. But I think that's why prayer is very valuable, because it helps at the beginning of the day to kind of raise our spirits, and at the end of the day that we can be closed down with a peaceful heart. But then he said something very interesting about the Lord's Prayer. He said this prayer is really a secret formula for balancing the chakras and clearing the aura. I never heard this before, but this is what he said. He said, if you say this prayer, our Father who art in heaven, this opens the chakras. Hallowed be thy name, balances the 7th chakra. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, balances the 3rd. On earth as it is in heaven, balances the 2nd. Give us this day our daily bread, balances the 1st. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, balances the 4th, the heart chakra. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, balances the 6th chakra. Forever and ever, amen, balances the 5th. So this is quite an interesting idea. I don't know if it's true, but this is what he learnt, and he taught her. And so it can't do you any harm to say the Lord's Prayer every morning and every evening. And then he taught her about sensing auras. So, rub your hands together, and then he said, I put them close to me. Can you feel? And after some time, she could feel like a kind of a spongy feeling around him. So this was something also to develop. And then decoding, I talked before about how we can pick up energy from others. And so this is a health relationship, smooth pink cords connecting heart to heart, love. So there are these energy cords that connect us, but an unhealthy relationship, this is where a coarse dark cord connecting heart to solar plexus chakra, and this with control and unhappiness. So this was also something she was training to do. And then there's something called psychometry. And this is where you ask your client for an object, such as a photograph or a key, some personal item. And then she was training what she would pick up about this. And that was part of her learning, because in the beginning, she used kind of cards that kind of help her to focus. But later, she found this was a more direct way to kind of pick up something about her client. Your highest goal is to help people understand their soul's purpose, but this isn't what people are interested in when they ask for readings. So in the beginning, as a child, she was picking things up about people, but she didn't really understand what her purpose was. But later, from Charlie Goodman, she learned actually this is what you're really going to do, is to, when they come, is to give them direction about their life and the deeper purpose of their life, not just answer their questions, but they may not be listening, and many times they don't get it. But later, what she found when she gave readings that didn't make sense to her or to her client is later they were confirmed, and what she said would happen, happened. Your gifts are to serve spirit and God, and not ever your personal ego. And this is something he emphasized very much. Don't get centered upon yourself. That's the last thing. This is a gift God has given you. You're here to serve God and to serve spirit world as it guides you, and to serve people. And then, actually, Charlie Goodman, he taught her for a few years, but he had to move from where to another city, and he lost contact with her, and a couple of years later he heard that he died. But then she was guided to another person called Dr. Trenton Tully, and he was a speaker at the Metaphysical Research Society, Denver, Colorado. And this is kind of the stage where he would give his talks. And the society was dedicated to the study of ancient metaphysical texts and lost wisdom, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Gnostic Bible, the Kabbalah, numerology, astrology, tarot, and the mystic arts. He was a lot of stuff. And so she was, a friend brought her there. And this is where she kind of learned a bit more about her path. And so I would like to read several of his statements, which I think are very interesting. We are here to learn to create by raising our vibration and becoming a clear channel of focus and intention. We're here to learn to create. So God gave us the ability to create. But when we raise our vibration and we have a clear focus and intention, then we can do that. Yeah? We should not be living lives with unfulfilled dreams. We're here to create the life we want. The greater our clarity and intention, the higher our ability to attune to divine guidance and those divine forces that are seeking to help us on our earthly journey. So this clarity, opening the heart, means that we will get this guidance. So if we ask ourselves, well, what's the purpose of my life? I don't really know what my purpose is. But actually, the guidance is there. But unless we're open to it and we are kind of very clear what we want, we will not receive it. Creativity is our nature and our gift from God, and we create everything in our lives, like it or not. The goal of life is to learn to create what we really want from our heart, because that's where our soul lives and expresses itself. If we listen to our heart and follow the laws of creativity, we can attract what we really desire. This is the point of our earthly journey, to create and express our loving spirit. Two things, to be creative and to be a person of love. These are the two aspects of our life. Focus that is connected to the heart is the most powerful force. People don't realize that we do not create in the head or what we think about. We create in the heart, the emotional center, because desire is the engine and spark of creativity. We create what we desire with our whole heart and soul, and what we give our undivided attention to. So in our movement, we talk about the culture of heart. We talk about how God is not just a God of love, but a God of heart, because heart is the irrepressible desire to love and to share love and to give and receive love. And so within us is this irrepressible desire of heart. And when we connect to it, that's when we can be creative and fulfill our dreams. And so, Sonia, because she was a psychic, it was very difficult for her to find love or to have a relationship with any boy, because people were scared off by her, thought she was weird, or they thought, well, maybe she can read me. And also she was a bit of a nerd, very academic, and had strong glasses and skinny and not so attractive, and a bit weird from most people's viewpoint. But she reached a point where, she really wanted to find a life partner. Well, actually, no, this part of the story is when she was still a student, there was this, she said, I felt inspired to use what I was learning and was determined to create what I truly wanted, a date to the junior senior prom only 3 weeks away. She was in high school. And so she wanted to have a partner to dance with, but it was difficult. No one was interested in her. So she decided to use what she learned from this Dr. Tully about being creative and have a clear intention and really coming from your heart to find her prince. And so she said, I imagine my hero with every detail I could imagine. Big bell-bottom pants, thick mutton chop sideburns, aviator sunglasses, a long scarf around his neck, looking like he stepped out of a London nightclub. So, and so she did this, you could say, a condition, and she visualized it, and she affirmed it, she believed it. She even told students, oh yeah, I've got someone to come. But actually, as the days passed, no one turned up. And so she kind of became disheartened, and she complained to God, you said this would work, it doesn't. And then she decided on that day to go shopping, and because she wanted some new shoes. And she went to this shoe shop, and lo and behold, the person who served her was this person who looked just like had described. And he said to her, the shop assistant, if you buy these shoes, I'll take you out, like he just said that spontaneously. And so she was taken aback, and she said, oh, well, would you like to come to the ball, the prom? And he said, yeah, when is it? Tomorrow night. And so he came, and it all worked out. Amazing. I was coming to understand that we got what we focused on, and the better we focused, the better we got. My work with Dr. Tully transformed me from a psychic reader into a psychic guide, healer, teacher, and creator. And it prepared me to do my life's work properly and feel peace in my heart. So the next part is my own future from 1977 to 2003. And this is where, now that she'd established herself, she wanted to find her life partner. I visualized him and made a list of his qualities. And then I even saw him in a dream. Then I met Patrick Tully, and he ticked all the boxes. And we married, and we have 2 children. So that's a very brief description. But actually, even though that all went very well, then, so she began teaching classes in addition to readings. And she taught both the psychic arts, which I'd learned from Charlie, and the spiritual law, which I learned from Dr. Tully. I showed my students how to meditate, how to see auras, how to do psychometry, open their clairvoyant eye, and even meet their guides. I showed them step by step how thoughts create. So everything she learned, she passed on. So she became a teacher, and as well as giving readings. So you could say everything was going well in life. But she experienced great difficulties in her marriage because she was doing too much. And one of her children wouldn't sleep at night, and it was very difficult. Her relationship became very hard. And so then she was visited by 2 spirits, the Pleiadian sisters, who helped Sonia recover her divine spark and recommit to her path. And they said this: you have learned many of the principles of universal love and unconditional love in theory. With marriage, partnership, and family, one puts these theories into practice, which is very difficult to do, as you are discovering. So this stage in her life, where she became very low, this is where Spirit World again stepped in and said, well, you've learned many things, but now this is what you need to work on. And they said, you need to connect your partner and keep your love and affection alive in all circumstances. So because of this guidance, she started reducing the number of readings she did and the amount of teaching, and she kind of put more priority on her family to get balance in her life. And that's where things improved. And they said a true soulmate is the one who grows your capacity to love. And so this is all of us go in our journey in life, and if we reflect, for those of us who have a family, once we were single people, and then we were couples, but then when children come along, that's, I suppose, if I reflect upon my own life, that's the real test. But that's also how you grow. And so all of the challenges I've had in life is all part of growing, because we're here to develop our heart, to learn to love. And as we know, in the family is a school of love. And learning as a child to love your parents, learning as to love brothers and sisters, learning to love your spouse, and finally, the highest level of love, unconditional love, to love your children. And so we're all being guided, and we face challenges, but those challenges help us to grow. And each one of us, we're different. I'm not Sonia Choquette. I'm not you. I'm me. And so each one of us has our own path. And so we can't compare and think, oh, that person's better than me, and that person has a harder time than me. We all have our own path. And it's important that we can kind of be open for that guidance. So when we have challenges, we can receive the guidance so we can continue on our path. And this is her with her husband, Patrick, and her daughters, Sabrina and Sonia, many years later. And so this is probably a fairly recent picture. And here she is with many of her books. So if you want to learn more about her, you can certainly find out lots of books, because this is also something her spirit guides told her to do, that you need to share what you've learned to kind of help people on their path. So this is a diary of a psychic. And these were the 3 parts that I went through, although briefly the 3rd part. So the question is, what have I learned from reading this book? First of all, we're not alone. Last time I talked about alone in the pandemic and how people maybe have struggled because they couldn't meet with others or isolated at home. But I never felt lonely because I feel God is with me, and I have my ancestors with me, I have angels, spirit guides, so I feel I can never feel alone because I'm not alone. So this is one thing to learn, not just that she had these guides, but all of us. Secondly, everybody has psychic abilities. And so when she teaches people kind of how to develop. And some people would say, well, this is dangerous and scary and stay away from that. But I think because of the fall, our psychic abilities closed down. And of course, she had to learn how to control herself so that she didn't get dominated by negative energy. But it's also important that we are kind of sensitive and open to receive the guidance. So we shouldn't be closed. And I think developing our psychic abilities according to who we are is very healthy. And each of us have a God-given purpose in life. So that's why if we say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, I think each one of us, we're unique. We are divine beings, and God is working through us to fulfill our purpose. And if we don't know what it is, that's why we need to reach out and open up to receive that guidance. Regular spiritual practice attracts the highest spirit world and protect us from negative energies. That's why in our movement, we talk about, studying early in the morning and praying on a regular basis and making conditions. This is kind of the regular diet of a spiritual life to keep our spirit high and protect us. The heart is the center of our being. This is what we need to keep open, because this is where love comes from. And this is opens up our other spiritual senses. So this is central. Creativity is a gift from God, and we create everything in our lives. Everything. So whether we've created good things or bad things, we are responsible. Yeah. And we have to, if we have the correct understanding, then we can create what we desire. Some final words. So as I was searching our own books, some words from Father that connect to this, then I found 2 passages. First of all, God's goal is the kingdom of heaven, reflecting the love and creativity of God, which relates to mind and matter respectively. So these 2 words, love, creativity. Love, creativity. This is our purpose, to develop our heart of love and to be creative. And he also said, Just as an original person is a unified being of spirit and body, true social life unites both the spiritual and the material, and the ideal world unites love and creative action. Love and creative action. So to become a unified person, a harmonious person, we need to be a person filled with love, but we need to get out into the world and create. So with love coming from our heart, we need to use our creativity, because love and creativity creates joy. And that's our purpose. That's why we're here. And that's why I've been giving many messages on Sunday about joy. That's why we're here. And if we develop our love and our creativity together, this gives us joy. And that was from this book. So thank you for listening. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Yeah, Sonia seemed to be a very good person to listen to if you want to learn more about spirituality.
Yes.
Yeah, now you have to stop sharing, Tim.
Stop share. Okay. Oh, there we go. Right. Good.
Now we are together again.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, interesting person. But she's far more spiritual than most of us are.
Well, that's her path. The point is, that's her path in life.
Yeah.
But all of us are still spiritual beings.
Yeah.
But maybe, that's not my path. But I can, as I keep saying, we can learn from a person like her.
Yeah.
So I can learn a lot.
Yeah, we can learn. I think we can be happy we are not that person, because she also seemed to have quite a difficult life.
Yes, yeah.
Struggles with this.
Yes, I mean the struggles came later, and actually, she actually separated from her husband.
Oh, really?
But then she reunited with him.
Oh.
She kind of that picture I showed you was when she was reunited.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you never know in life what's coming around the corner.